So we all know Logitech has been getting a little bit of hate lately, and rightfully so, with some questionable releases and definitely that subscription-based peripheral idea from the CEO. Like, gosh, I hope that never happens. And I truly believe why we're all so passionate and vocal about that is because we know what Logitech is capable of and what they have brought to us in this space in the past. It's just sad. But with the new Logitech G Pro Superlight 2 DEX, this is the Logitech of old, the Logitech we love, the Logitech we know. This mouse is darn good. And I'm sure many of you are asking, is it just a G Pro Superlight refresh or a G703 refresh that we all have been asking for? Well, I'm gonna answer all those questions in this video. Now, as far as inside of your box, of course, you're gonna get your mouse, which also comes in a white and pink version. You get your USB adapter, your USB dongle, your extra bottom plate over here, which actually the solid one is installed. I always use the one with the extra skate on the bottom because I love the big Zowie-esque type of feet. And then you can also store your dongle in there as well. You get your cable, some grips, very nice, soft, grippy grips, and then your cleaning cloth, and then your paperwork. Now, first I'm going to go and give you some dimensions. And when we do the dimensions and the heat signature, I'm going to be stacking it up to, again, the regular G Pro and then also the G703, just so you can kind of consolidate and decide what this really is. But first off, as far as the measurements of my hand, because that's really be important when I'm talking about all this, you can see the length, and then the width up here by the knuckles, and then we'll go down here from that palm area, just again so you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, let's go and fire up the caliper here, set to 0, and first we're going to take a look at the new DEX. We'll look at that length from the front to back, as far as grip width right over here by the buttons, right where you would be gripping it. Now it does flare out towards the back end here, as you can see. And then up towards the front, it kind of comes in just a pinch. Now, as far as that hump, right from mid-sensor to the buttons, there is our hump. And looking at it from this way, again, you can see that flare out right over there. So if you look at it again from the top with that flare out here, kind of coming in where your palm would be, is going to be right there. Now that hump drops off right by that G logo. You can see it right there. That's right where it's going to start dropping off. And that is going to be right over there at 38. Now, if I can do this front measurement without pressing the buttons down, you can see that right there as well. Now, let's look at the Superlight. Coming over here from length on the regular G Pro, front to back, if I can get this locked in there, there's that length. And then the grip width of this guy. And then as far as that flare out back there, so you can already see the DEX is a little bit bigger. Let's go and get that hump here again for the hump on the regular G Pro. Now the 703, and I think this is going to be the bigger question, is the new DEX the 703. So there's that length. Here is that grip width right there. And then we'll go ahead with that flare out right there. And then as far as that front, so you see that front flares out a bit more on the 703. And then that hump right here middle, sensor to buttons. And then that drop off, which you can see the hump on the 703 definitely goes a lot longer. So you can see it pulling down a bit. When over here on the DEX, it definitely drops off a little bit earlier and kind of swoops down. But I think the test that's really going to show you the difference between these three mice is the thermal test that I do here. And sorry about my new setup. I'm using the iPad, so I don't got my phone up on the mount. I just upgraded my phone and using USB stinking C now, and everything I have is lightning. So anyways, I'm gonna have to change all that. So anyways, I'm gonna be moving around here a little bit. So hopefully it still works. But anyways, warming up my hand, getting the DEX into my primary grip position, bam, right there. I can feel it already. And seeing it in my hand, it doesn't go into the back of my palm. I mean, I can, but as far as my primary grip, my thumb looped right around the side. That little flare out came right in the back of my side of my palm there. And then over to the side, my pinky's not being pressed in because we got that flare out there as well. No pains whatsoever when gripping this. It's very nice. It's not like overly massive ergo. But anyways, as far as, again, in the hand, getting over here, we'll put it underneath there. Hopefully the camera will pick this up as well. And just look at that grip point. Again, where I'm talking about right over here, if I can see right, yeah, right here, you're seeing my palm, and then it comes down over onto the fingers a bit, and then back towards over here. But it's not like true in the back of my palm. You can see it's definitely flowing up towards my fingers right there as well. So again, it's really nice that you can even pull it into a full palm if you want, but you can see my fingers are kind of going a little bit further on it. This is maybe if you're working or just taking a quick break, you can slap it in there, and it's very comfortable. And if we see it like that, again, you can see it kind of fills out a little bit more onto the side and onto the fingers up there where it's just kind of wrapping around going all the way to the front. But again, that's my primary grip there and it's really nice. Now coming over here to the regular G Pro, this is more or less, for me at least, a fingertip style, maybe relaxed claw. I can rest it down there a little bit. But I'm really dancing, flicking and dipping this one quite a bit. It's sitting like this. I usually got it out of my hand, again, because it's not flaring out and it's not really as bold right there. So I'm kind of just dancing it around here a little bit. Hence, you know, it's always a versatile mouse, but something that was never really suited for me since I am an ergo, as you guys know. Put it over here and you can see, oh, a little camera freeze. You can see I'm not getting too much at all back here in the palm. It's definitely up there on the fingers, over here on the side, and then over onto that side. But again, it's such a versatile mouse. If you got a smaller hand, that's where the G Pro comes into play. It's versatile for big hands, medium, and small. You can really play around with this mouse. But I think the biggest concern is the 703 here. And as you saw with the measurements, it's definitely a little bit more bold and just get in the hand. It's a weird mouse for sure. It's never something I could main. It's a mouse I always loved for sure, but nothing I could main because that hump was just like, it's a little bit too sharp. It doesn't roll over like you see over there on the DEX or a traditional. I'm trying to see, where would I even grip this? I think I'd probably be just like this. So you see it's definitely in that side of the palm, but over here, it's not really touching me on the opposite side. Doesn't flare out over here. So again, my pinky's being stretched in a little bit. It's a weird mouse for sure. It's almost like just resting underneath this knuckle rather than going around like a traditional type of ergo. So let's see if the heat, I'm kind of curious how this one's going to transfer over. So here is the 703. Let me scooch that up a little bit. The 703, and it's exactly what I'm saying. Look at that heat signature right there. Bam, over to there, and really nothing over on that other side. That's exactly what this mouse feels like, at least for me. You have that primary hump right there where you're truly pressing on and it doesn't swoop over to the sides. Again, when it's so weird because right underneath this knuckle, that's where I feel it. And then bam, over here, it falls off. So unless you're like really like hugging your mouse, then it'll be good. But again, for me, I got those side finger cramps. When over here on the DEX, let me show you this one again, how I'm using it. Gosh, just putting it in the hand, it's just, wow. I mean, it does exactly what I need for a mouse. It is so nice. You can see, again, it kind of wraps around that side a little bit better. So again, I apologize about having to use the iPad for that test. I know I was kind of moving around a bit, but my new iPhone 16 here with the USB-C is just throwing me off. I got to adjust all of my stuff that I have. But hopefully that was able to show you, again, the comparison between these three mice. And I think most importantly to the 703, and I think that thermal test truly justified it. Yeah, numbers are numbers, dimensions are dimensions, but your hand's different than mine, your grip point's different than mine. And that's why I do that thermal test, to truly show you. And again, it really sits like right in between these, right? Like you got that universal shape, you have that hump, which I don't know, can we call the 703 an ergo? It's really interesting how it sits right there, and it's always been like that. But the DEX is definitely more geared towards an ergo. It's a safe ergo because it's not massive or big like, say, the Death Adder V3 or even like an ES shape or an X-Lite shape, you know, where it's definitely that true classic, tried and true ergo. This feels, again, a little more universal, a little bit more safe, and it's not as plump as many other ergos that you're used to. But again, most importantly, no, it's not a G703. It is very, very similar, but again, it's rounded out a little bit more. It's a little bit more, again, curved towards the back when this one was a little bit more sharp towards the back. Now let's go and take a look at the weight, and I'm going to show you the mouse exactly how I used it with this extra foot on the bottom, and slapping it on a scale, we are getting 58.7. If you take that foot out of the bottom, you're going to get 56.8. So a nice little reduction, but again, it's so mild that I don't really think it matters. But showing you some differences, looking at the G703, let me make sure I got the dongle out of this heifer. Oh, you can't even store it in, that's just for power play. Okay, so getting this heifer on it, we're getting 96.3, and whoo, you feel it. As far as the G Pro Superlight, let's get that dongle out of there. We'll put the foot on. We are getting 63. Now, this is a Superlight, the original version here. As far as the Viper V3 Pro, we're getting 54.9. The Lamzu, the new one, the Maya X, 47, really nice. And then the Tiger over here with grips on it, 42.6. And then the new Asus. Gosh, this mouse is amazing. The review will be coming very soon on this. We're getting 48.7. And then back to the DEX, we are getting 58.7. So looking at the weight of the new DEX, I think a lot of people are going to be saying, well, man, looking it up to some of the competition, it's not much lighter. But you know, me not as someone that's crazy about weight. Like, I understand a lightweight mouse is nice. What's more important, especially with a more ergo type of mouse, is balance. And this thing is balanced like a glove from the front to the back. I mean, it is natural. It just flows perfect. You don't feel any heft anywhere around the mouse. But again, looking at competition where you got other mice that are lighter, I don't think that's a talking point. We don't need our mice all to be 30 or 40 stinking grams, you know what I mean? We need them to feel good in the hand. And as far as the shape and feel and balance of this, it is absolutely perfect. Now, as far as the coating on the new Logitech DEX, it does have that soft touch type coating, but you also feel a little bit of grain in it. What I would compare it to is the Death Adder V3 Pro, the black version, okay? The black version. So it is grippy. It almost has a little bit of that soft feel to it, not too much texture, but it's not as much as, say, like the white coating on the Viper V3 or even that Lamzu, where you almost got like that soft touch feel, kind of, if that makes sense. It definitely has a very grippy texture. Man, it's really hard to explain. The best way to explain it is if you use the soft touch of Viper, because it feels exactly to a T like that. But again, I don't want you to misunderstand it and think it's like that super soft touch of, say, the white version. I'm wondering if the white version of this will have that different kind of feel. But all in all, it's smooth and it is very grippy. Now let's go and take a look at the build of the DEX. And you all know I use my force gauge meter, so I'm not talking about, oh, hey, I grip it tighter like this, that, or the other. And why I press it so tight in there is to see where those weak points are, if any of us are tight, or we see that weak point over time. As far as my time using it, being a tighter gripper, never noticed any flex whatsoever. But again, our test is our test. Pressing it in right here, I am actually getting some flex right around that 9-pound mark. I doubt you guys can see the flex, but I can tell you right around 9 pounds. I am getting some flex over on the buttons. But again, as far as my use, using it being a tighter gripper, no actuation or anything, but over time, how will that fare? I don't know. That's why we're doing this test. As far as the top, no flex whatsoever. As far as that back, no flex whatsoever. Coming over here onto this side, say by our grip bit, again, right over here, probably around 12 pounds. I'm seeing it go in just a pinch. And then over on this side, again, right at that 9 pounds, I'm starting to see that flex as well. So again, is this going to be an issue? I don't think so. Maybe over time, if you're a firmer gripper and you're constantly pressing in there, will that loosen up over time? I'm not too sure. That's why I do this test, just to let you know where those weak points are. And we got 9-pound flex on the side. Now for the switches in this mouse, they are using the Lightforce optical switches and they feel pretty nice. Unlike the Superlight 2, where I told you they were too darn heavy, especially compared to the 1, these are a nice little balance. So anyways, I'm going to take my microphone off and I'm going to set it up here on a wicked cushion, actually, to prevent any vibration from the desk going up. So hopefully it'll be a fairer test. So there we go with that. And we're also going to pair it up to some other mice. Now, as far as any excess play within these buttons, you really don't notice any at all whenever using it. But if I sit here and try to dig for some, you might find a little bit of bounce on the bottom. But again, I'm digging here, right? And then as far as play within the buttons, also, if I put some force and actually try to pull these apart, they will come a little bit. But again, as far as in-game, no matter where you're pressing this, whether you're inside, outside, or whatever, you don't notice any excess bounce or any excess give at all. That also goes into play right with the side buttons. These are some of the snappiest side buttons I've ever felt. I absolutely love them. They're just like, man, there's no mush or whatever. No matter where you press them, you get that same feel, whether you press them on the back or the front. Some of the best side buttons I've ever used. So why I brought out all these other mice to show you the difference of sound testing is the feel of the DEX. It's kind of in between a lot of them, right? It's not so much like the Razer, where I would say these are just a pinch lighter, but as far as the core feel, they feel and sound quite similar. But I would say the DEXs are a little bit heavier. But then when you come over to like the Lamzu, where these are just springy and loud, this is the Maya X. I'm not a fan of these switches. They just, again, a little bouncy, and they just have a weird pop in them, you know what I mean? Compared to the original Superlight, again, they feel maybe a little cheaper. It's a really nice feel right there. It's not ridiculously sounding by any means. It's the new Viper V3 Pro, just a pinch heavier. And as far as the scroll wheel, it is a bit lighter. Even talking about coming over here to the Razer one, I would say it's a little bit lighter than the Razer. Pretty much right on par with the Superlight, definitely lighter than the Lamzu Maya, and as far as the ASUS, it's definitely lighter than that as well, but I never caught myself get any mispresses at all. So that's why I brought out all these other mice. Again, I wanted to show you the difference compared to the other ones, and hopefully that helped out. Now, unfortunately for the feet on this mouse, they are still using those same little tiny thin feet that they use on a Superlight. As you see right there, you almost have the frame, and when I come over onto my Surface, if you were to press hard, I don't want to say you feel drag, but you feel that little bit of scrape. Now, if you're over here on a glass surface, you don't really notice it at all because, again, you're just smooth against smooth. It's just pending your surface. If you're using a smaller surface, it'll sink in and you'll notice a little bit more. Mine's probably a medium density cloth pad here. So, again, I don't notice it too much. Where you do notice it is, say you're coming over, here's my Superlight where I have, I forget the name of these skates, but you can just see clear as day. They're a lot thicker. And you feel that smoothness. Where you definitely notice is like, say the Maya X over here, just look at these bad boys. Like, whoo, like look at the comparison of feet. Like this one, you can barely see popping out. Over here on the Maya X, you definitely see the roundness. And that's where you notice it like, wow, that is just butter smooth no matter what kind of surface right there. It just glides across it. Coming over here on, again, the DEX, I'm probably going to tell you to upgrade these feet because they're just a little bit too darn thin. Now let's go and take a look at the software and talk about performance. And this mouse is using a Hero 2 sensor, and you can get up to 95 hours of battery life. And we'll talk more about that in the software. So number one, you got some presets, or you can set your custom, which I have right down here. As far as slots of DPI, up to 5, and the DPI is increments of 2 actually. So say we go 402, you can see it'll set it there, but if you go 403, it'll go right up to 404. So increments of 2. I run 800, and I've actually been running 1200 a lot lately as well, which is kind of interesting because I'm never usually snappy like that. Anyways, going further, if you click on advanced up here, which is really cool. So now each DPI, so say if you're up here on this one, you come up here and you can adjust the liftoff distance for that DPI. Say you want medium, and then over here, when you're faster, you want it set to low, which is pretty cool. Now, just quick side note, to actually be able to access this, you need your gaming surface mode on. So if you come over here to off, it's going to be disabled and let you know that it's disabled there. So gaming surface on, and then you can adjust that per DPI. I really like that. It's pretty cool. But again, you got to have advanced in that other one on, just so you know. Now, talking about battery life and such, of course, that's going to depend on your polling rate. And this mouse goes up to 8,000 polling rate wireless, which I use mine mainly on 4,000 just to keep it smooth as butter as far as my system and everything. 8,000, again, I don't think many of us really need that. 4,000 is perfect. The weird thing here is when you come over into wired mode, it only goes up to 1,000, which is weird. I mean, don't get me wrong. None of us are going to be using this mouse wired, right? Unless you got to do a quick on the pinch charge. But again, it's just weird. Like most mice go up to higher polling rate wired and lower wireless. But again, whatever, it is a wireless mouse and that's where all of us are going to be using it. But I left mine at 4,000. It performed absolutely flawless. I don't play FPS games. Maybe when a new Call of Duty comes out, I'll dabble into that a little bit. But right now it's really Wayfinder and then also the First Descendants. And as far as both of those games, it was flawless and performed absolutely butter. As far as using wireless headsets and stuff, wireless keyboards, it performed absolutely flawless. No hiccups, delays, no lag, no anything. It was absolutely perfect. And that's as far as me using the Pulsar Paracontrol mouse pad, one of my favorite surfaces right now. But I've also been testing that new Ponage glass pad, which is Whew, that is one fantastic glass pad. It's really just butter smooth. I'll talk about that in a future video, but talking about using the mouse again on a cloth surface or a glass surface, it was absolutely flawless top to bottom. So hopefully all the tests I do on my mice reviews, and especially the DEX here, was able to help you out and really decide, is this mouse going to suit you good or not? But most importantly, is it worth that price of $160? Myself, heck yes, I think it definitely is. As far as the performance, the build, the feel in the hand, it's a unique shape. Shape is king, and this is a great shape, and I really love this mouse, and it's sitting in that market. Like, we're going to say $150 is expensive for a mouse when a lot of mice, Pulsar or Lam Zoos, you can get for around $100. Sure, I get it, but again, we look at the razors and stuff, they're all pretty much around $150, and this is what we've just expected in the market right now. It sucks, but that's what it is, and yes, I do really like this mouse. But the other thing I really want to solidify here is it a G Pro Superlight or is it a G703? And what it is these mesh together. You got the kind of roundness of the Superlight into the 703, which is what I always wanted in the 703. Hence the reason I love the G Pro Superlight DEX. I think this is an awesome mouse and I highly recommend it. It is a total win.